Hello. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about what a medium does and how they work. So the best way I can do that is tell you from my own experience. So here goes, and feel free to add your thoughts or comments. I'm always interested in opinions. And I always say that my word is not God nor gospel, and I do not claim it to be. It's my theory, my conclusions after many years of studying this subject and actually working as a medium. So one of the things that I think stump a lot of people when they begin on their mediumship journey is they expect the communication from spirit to be like this loud booming voice that doesn't belong to them. And I think people get quite surprised when and I sit and explain to them, well actually it's not a different voice, it's still very much your own thought voice, but it's not your own thoughts. So for instance, when I'm not working, I'll be thinking about normal things. I might be thinking about what to cook for tea, what have I got to do for the rest of the week, what we're watching telly later, the normal stuff in life. When I sit down to do a reading, I'm very aware that the thoughts that I'm having are no longer my own thoughts, they're not Jane's thoughts anymore. And then I have to literally trust that what I'm getting is correct. And I teach that the first thing we get will be correct, the second will be logic. And mediumship is very much a battle in the early years between spirit and the logical mind. Think about it, the logical mind's been designed to keep us keep us still, to keep our feet on the ground. So suddenly we're getting thoughts and feelings and influences when we start our mediumship training, and the logical brain's very quick to dismiss that. You'll be amazed at how many people I've taught over the years, and most of my time with these people is spent kind of convincing them that they're not making it up, that it is valid. And once we can overcome that barrier of why me, or why not, you'll tend to find progression happens. No, it's like anything in life. If I was teaching the piano and you only sat down once a week, opposed to somebody who was practicing 3 times a week, you're going to advance quicker. I also feel it depends a lot also on how much of your own stuff you've dealt with. So when I look back now to my 20s when I was doing this work, as opposed to now I'm in my 40s, obviously as I've grown with experience, life experience, my work's grown also. I wonder what it'd be like now to watch a video of something I did in my 20s as opposed to now. I'd probably be like, ooh, I've grown, that's a good way to put it. So spirit use any means possible really to get the message through. What they tend to do is to show us in images, in pictures. They could show us in smells, in feelings. And I always say that we've got to be very aware of our own bodies, our own selves when we're doing a reading. So for instance, I watch my students and suddenly they can be giving a good message from spirit, and they're all actively rubbing their elbow, they're kind of very unaware they're doing it, and I'll bring their attention to it and I'll say, well, did you know you were rubbing your elbow? No, they say. And then I say, offer it across to your recipient, to the person you're giving the message to. And generally they'll find that the loved one suffered terribly with the elbow, or again with the head. It would be an indication of dementia in some cases. So we really need to be on the ball, and we need to be aware of what's going on with us. We also need to be aware of what's going on with us when we're working as opposed to when we're not. I always teach responsibility of this work. I'd hate to be launching people out into the world without good training. And I'd say if you are trying to get involved in this kind of work, I'd find yourself a good teacher. Someone who has got some experience, and someone who can also do what they claim to be able to teach you to do. So go into this almost as if, as you would anything else, you wouldn't just go for a driving lesson with somebody just because they had an L plate. You maybe do a little bit of research and see what you're getting into. So I believe that you should be taught with patience, with kindness, and also at your own pace. There is no rush to this. We haven't suddenly got to get to the finish line. And I do think when we get patient with ourselves, mediumship is better. I always like to say to my students, you get out of this what you put into it. So they do make some regular time to be still. And that's really easier said than done, isn't it? You think about it, the day starts to whiz by and we're unaware. And I always say that a really good way to sort of harness ourselves to get in the right place for it is to be in the now. I'm sure we've all gone on drives, haven't we? And we've had to get to a destination, we've had to drive 40 miles, and we've been very unaware of 30 miles out of the 40-mile journey. It's just passed us by and we haven't been aware of it. And a lot of my work is to still people, to get them to appreciate the now, what's happening, how you're feeling. And once we do take a step back and become still, it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for the spirit world to communicate with us. They haven't got to go through the layers and layers and layers then of the day's stresses, the day's toils, your own problems, your own aches and pains. You're ready and you're receptive. We've also got to be aware of the reasons why we want to do this work. If we want to do it because we want people to say, "My God, she's amazing," or "Oh," and kind of swell our ego, I really don't think you're going to cut the mark. I think there should be an underlying desire here to help, to prove survival of the soul. And if it's all about making the money, I think, like I said in the last video, it can be very hollow. And I think as much as spirit will work with us, they also won't work with us when we're doing it for the wrong reasons. Or our work will certainly go downhill very rapidly. And rather than getting the good reviews and the returned business, we're going to start socially a bit hit and miss. And so let's aim to be the best we can be. And as I say, this takes time. There is no short fix here. No more than there would be for any other apprenticeship you'll be going on. So a psychic, if you go to see a psychic, they're going to pick up on the atmosphere. They're going to be able to tell you things that you already know about yourself. So that's a psychic's job. It's kind of to pick up on the air around you, what you're carrying, your own energy, and to tell you about that. A medium takes it a step further. A medium links with someone who's passed over. I've sat through many evenings of mediumship, especially in my training when I was trying to find my own way. Who am I? How am I going to do this? And I was shocked. It's not too strong a word. At the standard, I'd sat through many evenings where there was a medium, and literally one of the greatest ones that sticks out in my head there is this chap, and he was doing the mediumship, and he suddenly said, "I've got a man here coming through from the spirit world, and he likes fish and chips. Who can take him?" And I'm kind of sat a bit dumbfounded. And of course, there's 15 hands go up in this hall. And of course, the medium then could take his pick. He could very much make that fit. So I decided down then that wasn't going to be the style I work in. I wanted to be able to pick my person. I wanted to be able to know who I was working with. I wanted to be able to direct the communication to them, because it made sense to me. If you can talk to a spirit person, why on earth are they going to send you on a vague wild goose chase around the room? They should know who they're going to talk to, and when you engage that person in conversation, it should start to make perfect sense to them. So it was kind of a labour of love for me. There were many times during my training, my self-doubt was huge. I was never the most confident with people. So to suddenly think I could do this, and it had to be a huge leap of faith for me. It wasn't something that I kind of relished, especially in my early 20s. They kind of dragged me kicking and screaming. It was almost like, what right have I got to do this? Am I good enough? And as I mentioned earlier in the video, that one of the main objectives you've got to get over is ourselves to do this work. And I will talk about the logical brain versus the mediumistical brain in more detail in the video. I just wanted to kind of give you a bit of insight as to what we're going to be looking at. So, as I've mentioned, Spirit are going to use pictures. They're going to use your own memory bank. And we need a bit of a quick mind to do mediumship effectively. We can't be stood there thinking, "Oh my goodness, I've seen an apricot, what does that mean?" We've got to be able to put these together. One of the greatest, it was funny, one of the funniest things I had when I was first started off, I was doing a reading for a lady, and I brought through her granddad, and I provided the evidence. I told him his name and the area of the country they'd come from, what he did for a living, and his wife's name that comes through. And all of a sudden in my mind's eye I could see this picture of a tortoise on its back, and it was spinning around in a shell. And I'm like, "Oh please, 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 this is old, but what am I supposed to say about this? It's a tortoise." And I heard very clearly in my head, "Say what you see." So I just said, "I'm not being funny." I said, "But I can see a tortoise on its back, and its legs are kicking." And it turns out that it was her tortoise that had passed a couple of weeks before, and she'd found it lying on its back with its legs in the air. And so I learnt very early on there that stop doubting what I get. It's not mine to decipher. It does take a lot of trust. But you find that as time goes on, you find that what you're getting, your interpretations are correct. You can't help but trust. If we were getting no to every sitting, we've got to have a look at that. But when we start to see that we are actually we're giving relevant evidence, and people are genuinely getting help from it. And so, as I mentioned in my last video, my trip to mediumship began with very close personal bereavement and the death of my own son. And so to me, it was a natural place to go to a spiritualist church to find out if I could communicate, if he wanted to come through and give me a message. And it took a good couple of years before I heard from him, actually. And I was very young and very desperate to hear from him. And I can understand why some people sort of say, some mediums are praying when they're bereaved. I also find that quite insulting to myself and to my clients and to many other people in the world who go to mediums for a reading. Might be grief stricken, but it doesn't mean that we've lost any shred of intelligence we've had. And I do think that even when you're bereaved, you can certainly see if it's really a genuine person who is communicating with someone who's passed over, and someone who's just pulling the wool over your eyes. So keep your eyes open out there. So what I want to do over the next couple of videos is I want to give you some very basic exercises, and this is going to teach you how to start to recognise the difference between psychic spirit and your own thought force, and you might find this is going to cause you a little bit of headaches over the next few weeks, but we'll go through it slowly. My teaching mantra is say it and sod it. If we see it, say it. If we're wrong, we'll know why and we can start to get it right. One of the biggest things I wouldn't want to think is that we're going to get something wrong, and we have to get things wrong in life. We're not always going to be A+ as soon as we start. But if we get things wrong, we can learn from that. We can see maybe the interpretation there is different. Maybe I should have gone into it this way and it would have made more sense. And so bear with me. So it will be quite a journey we're going to undertake together. And thank you for watching again, and I will set an exercise in the next video. You take care.